Okay, as we discussed in the past, that somehow when you learn a lot about different holidays or different things like ethics of our fathers we studied in depth, you're not sure where the woman's voice is. And it leads to an interesting question, like where the women, right? Because we all know that Jewish people, humanity, life cannot continue without the women, right? Women are kind of a big deal. We kind of make a difference and we kind of are necessary in life, right? So where do we come in and where are we represented? How have we made our impact? And what's interesting is the Torah definitely documents many, many women, and we'll go through them some in the basic 5 books, right? We said the Torah is made up of Torah, which is the 5 books from creation until all the way until Moshe passes away. Then we have the books of the prophets, Nevi'im, and that's from when Joshua takes over all the way through kind of Second Temple period, where the prophecy for Second Temple and the destruction of the temple, future Mashiach, etc. And then comes Ketuvim, which are writings, which is poetry, Megillas, and all of these are canonized and part of the Torah. So, I think Judith is joining us. So within all of these sections of Torah, hi Judith, how are you?
Hello, we don't hear you.
She's still connecting. So with all these sections of Torah, what you find, what's interesting is that there are many women whose stories are told. There's many women whose stories are documented. There's many women who we hear about, and there's many women we know, right? We've heard of Miriam, Moses' sister. We've heard of, the four mothers, right? Sarah, Rachel, Rebecca, and Leah. Mm-hmm. There's ones that are more popular, there's ones that are less popular, there's ones that we heard more of. And what's amazing is almost all of these women, still in 2020, there are young girls named after them. So they're etched not just in our story, and instead of history, we'll say her story, right? Instead of it just looking through the lens of history, we also have to understand that their influence is actually very much still relevant to us in life. There are people still today naming their baby daughters Sarah, Rachel, Rebecca, Leah, Chava, Yehudith, Hannah, go on, Miriam, Yocheved. All these women, we find they're still like part of the story. So their legacy is continued. So who were these giants? What was their, what did they bring to the table? Why were they documented? Because we know that there have been billions of women, right? Absolutely billions of women since the beginning of time. So some of them are documented. Not only are some of them documented, some of them were prophetesses. We know Devorah was a judge. A judge? You're telling me thousands of years ago there was a female judge? Our country now is in, hoopla because there's a female vice president for, elect. And for many, right, the idea, the notion of female leadership like that, glass ceiling broken. And for us as Jews, we've had women in leadership in many roles. But then it brings to the table, okay, if women have been in leadership and created impact and affected the world so incredibly, why aren't women rabbis, right? Why aren't women at the pulpit? Why is traditional women seemingly holding women back? Now, I recall when I moved to this town, I was asked by, you remember Judith Ruth Clearfield? Of course, the legend. So Ruth Clearfield was the Temple of Beth Shalom for a period, and she really was from a very old world Jewish family. She spoke Yiddish, moved to College Station. Her husband was a professor for many years, and she lived here. And she was very involved in the Jewish community. I mean, the woman was 4 foot something, but a force to be reckoned with. She actually was from our first group who studied in our Torah and T class many, many years ago. Trying to actually remember how far back this Torah and T goes. And I actually think it may have been before my triplets. So it's probably about 11 or 12 years ago, 12 or 13 years ago. And at one point, Ruth asked me, can you do an evening with the Sisterhood of the Reformed Temple about what it means to be a Hasidic woman? Basically, we have this prototype, a Hasidic woman in town. I was quite the anomaly for College Station, Texas, when we first got here. I think I got, and Judith, you'll remember because you've been here for a while, the question I got most was, you're the rabbi's wife? You're not at all what I expected. And I always look and say, well, I don't know, what were you expecting, right? So I think like talk about a myth buster or talk about, so here I was like this Hasidic woman living in College Station, Texas. Like, I think in the beginning, people were like, why are they here? And what do they plan on doing to our community? And so she asked me to do an evening with the sisterhood. Now the sisterhood, I think is long. I don't know if it's still together, cohesive group, but I remember, I don't even recall whose home it was in. Maybe it was in Ruth's home. And it was an evening. I don't remember, Judith, were you there? It was a long time ago. It was probably 13 or 14 years ago. It was within the first year that we lived here, and we're here. We start our 14th year. So, okay. So I go through explaining a little bit of what Hasidus is and what a Hasid is, why it's not a new concept, what are some of the fundamental principles and building blocks of Chabad Hasidut, which is Avat Yisrael, unconditional love, and Avat Torah, love for Torah. And I went a little bit about being raised in a family of 11 and why we even moved here and all of that kind of given over. Then I opened it up for questions, and everyone in the room was very, very polite Texans. Now imagine what questions they asked. What do you think they asked? They asked nothing.
I know.
They were frozen. They didn't ask a thing. Everyone was so worried about, I don't know, offending me or challenging me, which you know me well, ladies. You know I love a good discussion, a good challenge. Like I'm down. What was on their minds? So I said, you know what? These are some of the questions I've gotten in the past. And I brought up a mechitza, and I brought up a Aliyah Torah, and why I don't wear a yarmulke or talit. And I really brought up a lot of the burning issues or the burning questions that people have. Why am I starting from this launching point? Because I feel like I know we talked in the past few classes about feminine and masculine. And I think that as we hear these women's stories and we peel away the layers, what's going to happen is we will hopefully be able to see ourselves in those stories. And we will hopefully be able to connect on a deeper level to our own unique contribution. Because in Judaism, feminine and masculine are equal, but separate. They're not the same. And I know we live in a world where genders are, the topic of genders and are really hot, right? Gender identity, no identity, be what you want, who you want, when you want. And I actually, I will say I deeply feel for those struggling to feel comfortable in their own skin. I really do, in a very deep place, from a very deep place. But in Judaism, there is a difference. And it will start with how we were created. It will start with the first woman and man, Chava, the first female, Adam, the first man. It will start with their story. And what we'll hopefully be able to do is see our story and understand a little bit more about ourselves and our role and who we are. So what we're going to do is we'll jump in. And jump in at any point if you have any questions or thoughts or texts. We're going to jump in right away to the creation story. And I'm going to hit share screen, and hopefully I'll be able to do this appropriately. Okay. Okay. So it starts off, we're not going to focus on the first text. It starts off with Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. God created the heavens and the earth. And there's a lot of discussions why it starts with the letter bet. Why does the Torah start with, I don't know, why? Hold on, let me just see if I can split the screen properly. Do you know how to do split screen or no?
Somewhere up at the top, there's a little box that has
breakout rooms, pause recording, stop recording, meeting info, disable, hide names, hide videos, live on Facebook, share a computer. There is, I just don't know how to do it. My kids showed me, these kids are really good at this.
Yeah, and I'm on my phone right now, so I don't
know. Okay, if you figure it out, it's okay. If you figure it out, let me know.
But you want split screen of two different texts on there, or split?
Yeah, no, that's okay. Just the two between it's okay. Let's just keep going and I'll get it for next time. Okay, so we have this whole, Rashi asks about the letter Beis. At first, if it's creation, why Beis? So Rashi goes on to explain that Beis Bereshis, you have to start off with Beis 2, numerical value of 2, Reshit, beginning. And what is this? We're talking about creation, and Rashi says, okay, there's a dual purpose to creation. Basically, creation was not created, the world was not created for no reason. Why did God need a world, right? Why does God need to engage in the world? Beis Reshis, 2 reasons. So 1 is the Torah, 2 is he's calling for, Rashi says Yisrael. So 1, Torah, meaning society, like how do we live in society? How do we establish healthy communities, healthy homes, how do we live together? We need Torah, we need guidance. And then comes Yisrael. In this case, we're talking about humanity, mankind. Mankind through utilizing rules of Torah, which we know that aside from the 613 commands that are relevant to all Jews, the Torah contains within it the 7 Noahide laws, which are relevant to all of humanity. So Torah gives us that guidance for everyone. But how are we supposed to do that? Who's supposed to do that? And now let's open up briefly, or not open up. If you had a Chumash, I would say you could open a Chumash, but it's okay if we don't. We're gonna, oh, it's not, hold on, let me see if I can expand this. Okay. All right, let's look at this. Vayomer Elokim, this is from Pasuk Chafav. God already is creating all the 6 days of creation, and we're on day 6. God says light and dark and trees and swarm and heavens and earth, all of that. Now it goes into this. God said, Naaseh Adam, let us make man, B'Tzelmeinu, in our image, Kidmutenu, and our likeness, Vayardu B'Dagim Hayom, and they shall rule over the fish of the sea, Vayaridu, Uba'of Hashemayim, and the fowls of the heaven, Uba'behema, and over the animals, V'chal haaretz, Uv'chal haremes, haremes, al haaretz. And they'll rule over the heavens and the animals of the earth and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth. Okay, so God, first of all, who's God talking to? Let us make man. Like, okay, it's interesting, right? Second of all, what does it mean, kidmusenu? Created in the image of God. We all say this, B'Tzelem Elokim Naaseh Adam. When people try to say that everyone's equal and everyone's important, this is one of the catchphrases that come up again and again. I have a B'Tzelem Elokim. I am created in the image of God. How often have you heard that? We're all created in the image of God, right? And we would say true equality, looking at the world with a real equal lens, is really recognize that everyone's created in the image of God. Everyone has divine and holy and is here for a reason, because everyone is created in the image of God, just like God. Okay. It shall rule over the fish. And what does that mean to us, by the way? On a day-to-day basis, what does it mean they're created in the image of God? It's a good question. Rule over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the heavens, the animals of the earth. So here's very interesting. God made humans upright. God made humans head on top, heart over here, right? We've discussed this in the past, right? If I look at what I want to say, like here, let's try. Here's man. Oh, no, not the way I want to do it. My kids are so much better at this. Do you find that the younger ones are better? Look, here's man. Right, we see our little man here. And now,
okay.
Do you see it?
Yeah, on my phone, I only saw part of the screen, but I see it now.
Okay, no, that's okay. It's a little hard to do, right?
Yeah, no, I got it.
Okay, and here's man, and here is man's heart, right here, and here's their brain up on top, hopefully rocking the brain, right? Working really hard and understanding and learning, and right? And here we have this, right? So God creates man with a brain on the top and a heart on the bottom, and it's not a mistake. How does God create animals? God creates animals. Here's their brain. Their heart is actually a lot closer to their brain. They're not created the way we are, right? They're not created to, like this. Here's our little puppy dog. Here's his brain. And here's his heart. I mean, maybe I'm not a vet student or an artist. Okay. What's the point? Point is, it's not a mistake that we were created with our intellect here and our emotions here. what God was saying in this pasuk, and it's actually a takeaway for us, for you and I in 2020, is to remember this lesson. We're not equal. You find sometimes in life people treat their dog more importantly than they treat a human being.
Hitler
Remember, I
did.
don't think I'll ever forget. I once a student. Yeah, yes, correct. And I remember once I had a student who had their dog. They were at a flight. They got delayed, and I went to pick up the dog from doggy daycare. And I walked in, and I thought it was in a different world. And they're telling you, oh, he did so well. This was his first time here. He's played so well with the other dogs, and we got him a treat, a prize, because it's his first time. We want him to feel comfortable coming back. And I remember them saying to me, are you his person? Are you Stevie's person? I'm like, person? He's a dog. Like, what? I was so confused. And the reason I think I was so confused is because ultimately we have it a little backwards. That we forget that man was created we see right here, to rule over animals. Meaning an animal, even though you could sometimes see a 3-pound animal that seems like, what is it doing? It definitely seems like they are ruling over man. Rule over the animals. That means that man, remember we talked about in the past, there's a hierarchy in creation, domim, sameach, chayim, medaber, and that domim are inanimate objects. Would you say a rock should tell you what to do? No, a rock doesn't tell you what to do. A tree should tell you what to do? No. A dog tell you what to do? We have to be careful. We have to make sure that we don't forget that we are not animals. We're humans. And one of the things we have is bechira, free will. So we got to always kind of remember that. Now, next up, I'm going to clear. I'm trying, guys. You see, I'm trying all of this. Clear all the drawings. Image is done. Okay. Now let's look at the next passage, next pasuk. Oh, so what we learned from this also, by the way, is that, knowing our place, knowing that we have free will, knowing that we have to use our intellect over our emotions. That's 3 really powerful takeaways from that pasuk. The next one is making man in God's image. I did bring up this question, I didn't answer it, was the idea being that when we're made in God's image, it means that everyone is precious and holy and important and significant and necessary and godly and divine. So when you look at the world through that lens, it should lead you to be a really empathetic, really not seeing differences too much, really seeing each unique individual, what they bring to the table. But moving on from that, and God created man in his image. So what is this saying? And then it goes on to say, in the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. So anyone want to give me a little feedback about this passage? Because this passage is far confusing. What do you see about this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is confusing. Yeah. Why repeat? Why them? Why him?
First, his image, singular, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what the 2-7 is. Just ignore that. I think it's supposed to be here. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. What's going on here? He made a mistake. He wasn't sure. How's this text working? Okay. And why is it saying, is it singular? Is it plural? So Kabbalah actually goes on to describe how man was created. And at this point, man is Adam. And the word Adam comes from, in Kabbalah, describes Adama le'elyon. Domeh means similar to, right, Judith? Domeh means...
Oh, Judith had to leave.
Oh, I didn't see her leave.
Yeah, she sent it as a regular text.
Okay. I didn't see it.
Sent it to me,
Okay.
sorry.
It's okay. No, it's hard for me to see because I shrunk
No, you wouldn't have gotten, she sent it on the phone as a text
Okay.
message.
What does domeh mean? Domeh means, in Hebrew, Sarah?
Yeah, similar.
Similar. So the name Adam comes from Adam le'elyon, similar to God. That's the root of it. So fascinating name. Now, when God created in this pasuk 27, when God created man, b'tzelem b'tzelmai b'tzelem elakim, He made in his image, in the image of God, he created him. This is, we're talking about the first human, masculine and feminine in one. Okay? What does it mean, masculine and feminine in one? We know the narrative according to Kabbalah, that God formed Adam, a masculine and feminine out of soil, masculine and feminine being, and then he created them. Within them, there was two. So what is the narrative here? Okay, what's going on? Why the semantics? Why would God first create it one way, then create it another way? Like, did he mess up? Like an omnipotent God who created the heavens and earth and everything made a mistake, right? It's like, oops, it's not a good idea. And even if you look, oops, hold on, you see that? What happened just now? Okay, let's just close this for a second. Oh, interesting. Did you see that the yellow stays on my page?
No, doesn't
Okay.
look.
Oh yeah? Okay, it's scrolling with me. I guess I
Oh,
almost.
yeah, no, it
Isn't that
doesn't.
weird? I mean, not weird, but it's interesting because let me just remove all the lines because it's going to be, there we go. Clear all drawings. This is what happens when you try to get a little more tech savvy. Oh no, you see what's going on here? I hope you're enjoying at least the humor in that. Manya trying to use the technology better. Okay, then go on further in the next chapter. Adam lo matza ezer kenegdo. Okay, so this man, this male, female, masculine, androgynous being is upright, and God parades all the animals before him. Man named all the cattle, the fowl, the heavens, the beasts, the field, but man did not find a helpmate opposite him, meaning a mommy, a male giraffe and a female giraffe, a mommy elephant and a daddy elephant. Everyone's walking in front of him. He actually is naming them. So all the animals get their name from Adam. God actually gave him. And we're saying him as an Adam, but him as in, because the word Adam is a masculine word, but the him here is this male-female unit. Okay, this androgynous being. And God actually endowed him with wisdom to see the essence of each animal, and then from there come up with a name that really suited them. And the Lord caused, okay, so fine, fascinating, interesting stuff, no problem. But what happens? Here, we're going to annotate because it is super interesting. What does he say? He did not find a helpmate opposite him. What does that mean? He didn't find a wife. There's a mommy giraffe and a daddy giraffe. There's a mommy animal, right? What about me? I'm alone. And interesting, if you see Ezer means a helpmate. Kenegdo can mean opposite. So people say, whoa, why would he want someone who's going to oppose him? Why does he want someone who's challenging? But in this case, the word keneged also can mean parallel, right? You ever took instructions in Israel and says Zev keneged zeh, right? Here's one, this road, and this would also be keneged. On. Wait, no. See, keneged meaning, do you see? Oh, what is it doing? It's not letting me do it. Okay, I'm going to give up on that. You understand the parallel entities, not against, not conflict, but a helpmate that is parallel to me. Okay, fascinating. He's complaining. He's not happy, and the Lord caused a deep vayipol Hashem Elokim. The Lord caused a deep sleep to fall. I always joke. I say this is the first time you see anesthesia in the documented in humanity. And upon him, and he slept. And he took one of his sides. It says Selah. People will say it's a rib. People will say it's a side. It's room for translation. And he closed the flesh in its place. And the Lord God, and here's the word we need to focus on because this is going to be a huge key word in understanding Chava's story. Okay, Vayiven Hashem Elokim es hatzela asher lakach min ha'adam leisha vayivia el adam. So Vayiven, and he built. And in the entire word narrative story of creation, it does not use the word bana, right? Or binyan. It doesn't use the word. Why is it using the word bana here? We're going to put that on the side. We're going to circle around to it eventually. And he brought him to Adam. And man said, this time it is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, meaning one. This one shall be called Isha, woman, because this one was taken from Ish, man. What's interesting is we learn, and I'm going to just show you this because I think it's so powerful, that when you look at the word, and I don't know if I've showed it to you before, but I feel like this is so relevant. When you look at the word, and it's going to take me a second, because if you look at the word in Hebrew, Larry, you may enjoy hearing this, but if you look at the word ish, okay, the word is aleph yud shin. This is ish. And you look at the word isha, Sarah, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Aleph, shin, yud, I'm skipping the yud, shin, and hey. Actually, I don't know, is there a yud there?
I think so.
Let's see. I actually think there may not be. Isha, no, there isn't.
Really?
Yeah, that's my gut instinct was to spell it without it, and sometimes my gut instinct is right. I'm not known for my spelling strength. It's just not one of them. But just do this. Right? Interesting. So what does it show? This is something we learn later. The Kabbalists will actually explain that Isha is female, Ish is man, right? That we know. Ish and Isha. It's giving me a hard time as per usual, but that's okay. Lara, I hope you're able to see this, even if you're listening. Sarah, you see the difference? Yeah. What's the difference? They both have Aish, which we know Aish means fire, right? And then we both have in it, the only difference or thing that stands out unique is they both are, have a Yud and have a Hey. Yud and Hey is Hashem's name. Male and female both have this godly divine soul. Okay?
Okay.
The fire, and I'm sure you see this in your practice, the fire can be fire of passion, or the fire can be fire that destroys. We have to recognize that there's a third partner, and in Judaism we see a third partner in the marriage, and that's God. So this Aish, this fire, this fire, we have to always remember, we want to keep that passion and that fire, something that warms and nourishes and is beautiful and not destructive. But it's not a mistake that those are how you call male and female. Okay? Now, right? Isn't that interesting, Sarah?
Well, what I find interesting is that you lost the aleph in the.
Oh Lord. Okay. Yeah.
But the pieces that they have that are different is the yud and the hey, but you put them together and you get Hashem.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, it's to maybe understand, and we can learn about this later, but really the feminine neshama and the masculine neshama come, according to Kabbalah, from different sources. The feminine neshama comes from a higher source called nukva, which is the same source of the word nikeva, which is female, which in essence means concave, a receiver, and malchut, which is kingship, which is like the result of. And that's where feminine neshama comes. And from the masculine neshama comes from the other, a different layer of divine energy. It's fascinating. It's just interesting stuff to learn. You know? Okay. Let's move on. And let's just get rid. By the way, I think this annotating, as fun as it is, it really is makes it a little harder, but on the other hand, it really makes it clear too. I'm not sure. The verdict is still out. You're being patient, so I'm using it so far. Okay. So Now, therefore, a man shall leave his wife and his mother, leave his father and his mother, cleave to his wife, and they should become one flesh. And so here now we're like, oh, tiyu b'basar echad, and that's the first command God, will say is like, be one. Yes, you're separate entities, but be one. Okay. Now, what is going on here with this language, this story? What are the deeper layers? So on a deeper level, and we'll probably end off with these three big ideas because I don't want to yet go into the Garden of Eden. We'll do that, I think, next class, if that's okay with you. If that's okay with both of you. But what's going on here is that, number one, God created male and female distinctly different, also created male and female distinctly from different sources, and even the verbs used to describe creation of male and female are different. And it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake at all. It's not even a coincidence. And so what God is really saying on many levels, there's a lot of powerful takeaways, okay? Some of the takeaways from this is, number one, it describes how we find the other half of our soul. That God actually creates in heaven, there's souls that are masculine and feminine. Now, you and I, we think of things, half whatever, half my phone. So cut it in half, and this is this half, this is a half. Divine energy is divine, it's godly. Okay, and we know that actually God infuses within Adam, and I want to see if it's in the next, before we get into the Garden of Eden, but I wanted to quickly just see if we can get that text. So forward, it's not in here. I thought I put it in. Okay, so what God actually did is God, v'yipach ba'apav, he blew into this masculine feminine being. I don't know why I didn't cover that yet. I'm sorry. It's like a little chronologically confusing maybe. A neshama, a soul. I asked the question, I didn't answer it because my text wasn't there. In man is this godly divine soul. When we said the difference between speaking, when I speak, you hear my voice, it's hoarse. Why is my voice hoarse? I don't know how to use my voice properly. Someone who's voice trained, he speaks from here or sings from deep within their gut, from, right? Because when I could talk for an hour, but I cannot blow up balloons for an hour. When you breathe into a balloon, you're taking air from your inner essence, you get tired. You're giving a lot. The soul of man was God breathed into man, this neshama, this godly divine energy. And this godly divine energy is a part of Hashem. Just like if I fill up a balloon, my air from my insides is in this balloon now. Okay, so the soul that we have is this divine part, which is why we're all created with a godly soul, a divine soul. And then the soul source may be different because it manifests differently, because what it means by we're created in the image of God is male and female. God is not male or female. If we're creating the image of God and there's males and females, that means God is both male and female. And depends really, the name of Hashem and how we refer to Hashem in this world, God in this world, depends on what's going on. So interestingly enough, Elohim, which is God within nature, is masculine. Shabbat, which is a day of returning, reflecting, dialing it all back, and a day of connection, is feminine. Called the Shabbos queen. We say, L'chadodi, come my bride. So there's sometimes the Shekhinah, the divine energy, like what was at the temple, but to Mikdash, we can bring down into our homes. That is feminine. When you light a Shabbat candle, it says you bring the Shekhinah down, or there's a minyan of a quorum of 10 men, they bring the Shekhinah down. That's a feminine energy of God. It's a godliness that fills a space. Okay, so God created two divine entities that are different, with different souls, but both holy. Do you remember what we said about the heavens and the earth, the waters on top and below, or the two luminaries? And really, to the luminaries or to the moon, there was a difference. To God, they were both divine and godly. So when we see differences with other people, or when we try to make all these differences between male and female, that's to remember we said our perspective and our perspective that created entities' perspective, like the moon was a created entity and saw things differently than the creator. So a lot of these differences that we're created different, but not, we're separate but equal. And that's something that's a lens that we have to go through understanding this story. So when God created the soul like this androgynous masculine feminine being with the same godly divine soul, then God put it to sleep and said, oh, lo tov adam liot levad. And Adam said, oh, whoa, where's my helpmate? Right? Adam kind of complains, like, where's mine? Everyone, by the way, is that not human nature? Everyone else has it. Where's mine? Everyone else's life is wonderful. What's with me? Right? We inherit this for a long time. We come by it honestly as human beings. Okay? The first human was just created by God, was very aware of his self, and so was, unhappy or frustrated or saw that something was missing. And interestingly enough, the Torah doesn't use the word lo tov. It doesn't use those words. So here it does. So it's pretty significant. So what happened was this masculine, feminine, androgynous being created as one divine soul, then split into two. Why did God split? What was the charade? What was the semantic? And we said that on high, there's divine souls that are both masculine and feminine, and they're split and sent into two different bodies. And then we spend the rest of our lives, not the rest of our lives, we spend a large portion of life trying to find that other half. And how many times do you speak to someone when they met that other half and you ask them, how did you know? And what do they say? It's the most annoying answer.
Just know.
I just knew. Just knew. What? All single people hate that answer. What do you mean you just knew? Because what's really going on is, aside from all the logic or hormones or emotions, there's actually that soul bond. There's a recognition. I knew you from somewhere. There's that deep connection. So all the semantics and the narrative of creation, not a mistake. It's every single word is kind of alluding to a lot more deeper beneath the surface explanations. And the last thing we'll say is the reason there are two different verbs used to describe and define how God created male and female. The word bana is that we said in the past that there are 10 divine attributes, chachma, bina, das, and bina is seen as very feminine. The word means to build, but it actually means connections, communication. Right? And I always joke, there's this comedian psychologist who says the difference between females and males. A male's brain is like a waffle. When he's sleeping, he's sleeping. When he's eating. When he's fixing the car, he's fixing the car. You say, what are you thinking? And he says, nothing. How could you not be thinking anything? I'm watching the football game. We are never, I shouldn't say never, but that's not how we operate, right? He says, a woman's brain is like a bowl of spaghetti. You pull a string and everything else is interconnected. We have stories and we're going past and forward and okay? It's how we're created. It's how we're hardwired with that extra dose of bina, those connections that we're making. And amazingly, if you look at I could pull out the slide of a male brain and a female brain, in the area of communication and connections, the female brain is actually larger, has more neural pathways. It's more developed. And so what the Torah is telling us, we are created differently with our own unique entities and energies, and we have to celebrate them. And we learned this from the beginning. Next week, we will finish up with Chava. We'll discuss possible. So remind me, this is the takeaway. How is it possible that the first humans created by God, so far they're giving two commands. Command number 1 is be fruitful and multiply. That they do fine. Command number 2 is don't eat from the tree of knowledge. And oops, they do. How is it possible? It's such a close bond with God. And then we're going to try to understand why we call Chava, and Adam names Chava, Chavaya, which means Im Kol Chai, the mother of all. Etymologically, the word Chava comes from the word evil, which is she's the source of all evil. So next week, we're going to try to say which one is right, and how do we understand this, and how can we see ourselves in this. So that is a wrap for today. I don't want to jump into the next section because I feel like we're at a good stopping point here.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Sarah, keep us posted.
Okay.
Keep us posted. And Lara, feel good, please. Feel good. Thinking of you. Rest up.
Sharon texted meanwhile saying that she has a meeting at this time.
Okay.
And you were talking about changing. I can be flexible about time, but I need advance notice. I mean, I can move my clients around to the extent that they're movable, but I
All right,
need to be
is
able to give them
Tuesday,
2 weeks.
would Tuesday work for you?
Probably. I don't have clients on Tuesday, so it
Okay.
might work better.
So let me see, I'm gonna put it out
Other
there.
things, I mean, that's when I plan everything else, doctor's appointments and whatever, but I would at least be able to listen in and tune
Right.
in.
And we can also say that like, we're gonna start, come, 2 weeks from now, we're starting on Tuesdays. Like we give it advance notice, like you said.
Well, if it's Tuesday, then I can change that easily. If it's a Wednesday or Thursday, those are my client
I
days.
think we would go to Tuesday because my Monday already has an anchor in the middle of the day and my Thursdays are like focus on Chabad house work day, and my Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have a little bit more flexibility. Okay, perfect. Take
Okay.
care, everybody. We'll be in touch.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.